Airline systems are working normally at all airports in India since 3 a.m. post the global IT outage. This is the word that Ministry of Civil Aviation has passed out to our sources. We'll bring you more details with regards to what exactly transpired. But let's walk you through the initial update. Well, an IT issue caused by a faulty update began wreaking havoc with Windows machines worldwide early Friday morning, knocking companies and banks offline and grounding planes at various airports as well worldwide. The problem, in fact, appears to have been caused by an update by cybersecurity provider CrowdStrike. The issue seems to have put affected machines into a recovery boot loop that prevented them from starting properly. In Indian scenario, the big update that we have received from Civil Aviation Ministry is that all the airline systems are now working fine since 3 a.m. post the global IT outage. We have CNN News 18's Yash Goel, in fact, joining us live on the broadcast. Yash, a very good morning to you. You've been tracking the story very closely since yesterday when the global outage exactly happened. What is the situation at this point of time, if you have received any word coming in from the ground reports or maybe from the airport?
Well, Sakshi, the situation is definitely bettering on the ground. And in fact, the Civil Aviation Ministry has also updated all the travelers. And in fact, they have said that since 3 a.m. In the night, airline systems across airports have started working normally, which means the services which were affected due to the IT outage are actually back to normal, which means the automated check-in services are now working. So that means that the entire process has been actually streamlined, but we have to understand the kind of cascading effect which was left after this very IT outage. It will take some time to settle. In fact, if we talk about numbers of cancellation, yesterday around 250 flights were cancelled. Around 250 flights were cancelled, and in fact, most of those flights were from Indigo. In fact, around 200 flights were cancelled. The number is around 200. The flights which were cancelled from Indigo's side. And in fact, apart from that, if we talk about SpiceJet and Akasa, there were no flight cancellation. There was some flight cancellation also reported from Air India side as well. So right now, what we are understanding, the situation at the airport is absolutely normal. But because of the cascading effect of this very IT outage, there are some issues which are being faced because of flight rescheduling and flight cancellation, but the situation on ground is very much normal. In fact, the ministry has also went on to say, in fact, they have said that they are constantly monitoring the operation at all the airports and also the airlines, ensuring travel readjustments and refunds. Because we have to understand, if 250 flights were affected, then you can imagine the number of passengers which were affected. In fact, many are also calling it a black day for the aviation sector here in India, because this is for the very first time, because of an IT outage, many big airlines, in fact, most of the big airlines had actually suffered somewhat a setback like this. But right now we can tell you that things are almost back to normal, and things are running smoothly on airports as well. The flight operations have normalized, but post 12 also yesterday, which means if you go by today's date, like 20th of July, there were some cancellations from Indigo side. Around 95 flights were also affected or marked on today's date.
Right, Yash. So the passengers would be taking a sigh of relief at this point of time, since things are going back to normalcy. But if we were to talk about the crowd at the airport, Yash, what do we know about that? Because several flights, as you mentioned, were cancelled. About 95 flights themselves were affected. How exactly the passengers were compensated for, the delayments as well as the cancellations?
See, this very update from the ministry states that all the passengers who were affected, either they will be refunded or their amount, their ticket will be refunded, or they could be readjusted. So the process has been initiated by the respective airlines, is what we are understanding. Because yesterday the IT outage which was witnessed was not something only India was witnessing. It happened actually across the globe. We very well aware of that, how air traffic was disrupted in the United States, in the European subcontinent, and also in Asia. And in fact, in particular, in India, if we say because of that IT outage, in fact, India was placed somewhat better if we talk about yesterday's conditions, because airlines were the only services we can say, apart from the Microsoft suite, which is being used by on the consumer level or on the personal level, that these two things were only affected. Yesterday, if we see the list is humongous, starting from Berlin airport to the Australian airports, all were affected. In fact, London Stock Exchange were affected. The media outlets based in UK were affected. Also, there were some effects in the US. The emergency services had taken a hit. But in India, the situation was much better. So now the cascading effect is still there. But at airports, the crowds are not that much, because till 3 a.m. that was an issue which was being reported. But post 3 a.m., all services are running normally at airports. In fact, the check-ins, the normal check-ins have also started.
Right, Yash. Thank you so much for putting all of that into perspective for our viewers, especially the passengers who had to face the brunt of